what are your plans for the off season and possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose a ton of the stuff I've worked on, and just trying to get my body back to full health. There's some USA basketball stuff.
They thought they could simply erase her from the narrative, but they underestimated the storm they were about to unleash. The decision to leave Caitlin Clark off the Team USA roster for the Summer Games was already the most controversial move in the history of women's basketball, but new information has surfaced that suggests the disrespect went far deeper than a simple rejection. We are talking about a level of pettiness that is almost hard to believe. Leaks from inside the selection process suggest that before the final door was slammed in her face, there was an offer on the table, one so insulting that it was practically designed to be rejected. Rumors are swirling that league officials considered offering Clark a spot as a glorified alternate, but with a catch that hit right at the core of her identity. They allegedly planned to strip her of her iconic number 22 and hand her jersey number 12. In the world of elite basketball, jersey numbers aren't just digits, they are status symbols. Number 12 is widely recognized in hoops culture as the bench warmer special, the jersey you toss to the last player on the roster just to fill a seat. It was an offer so laced with disrespect that it allegedly triggered a massive revolt behind the scenes, with players like Sophie Cunningham, an athlete known for her fire and grit, reportedly stepping up and refusing to play along with the league's messy politics. This wasn't just a roster decision, it was a declaration of war against the new era. To understand why this jersey number rumor is such a bombshell, you have to understand the brand Caitlin Clark has built. She isn't just a player, she is an economy. The number 22 is synonymous with her name. It's on the backs of thousands of fans, it's in the record books, and it represents the changing of the guard in women's sports. For the Team USA selection committee to allegedly suggest she wear number 12 was a calculated move to diminish her brand. It was a way of saying, you are not the star here. You are lucky to even be in the room. This aligns perfectly with the gatekeeping narrative we have seen all season long. The established veterans, the old guard, have been incredibly resistant to handing over the keys to the kingdom. If Clark had accepted a spot wearing number 12, she would have been visually submitting to the hierarchy, accepting her role as a backup to players like Diana Taurasi and Brianna Stewart. It would have been a visual representation of the reality check Taurasi promised her before the season started. But what the committee didn't expect was that other players in the league, players who have ground their way up from the bottom, would see this for exactly what it was, bullying masked as protocol. The shock waves of this decision were immediate, but the entrance of Sophie Cunningham into this narrative changes everything. Cunningham is a Phoenix Mercury standout, a player who has never backed down from a fight, and has often played the role of the villain in the eyes of opposing fans. She is tough, she is vocal, and she knows the game inside and out. For her to allegedly take a stand against the treatment of Clark signals a massive shift in the locker room dynamic. The media loves to paint a picture of Caitlin Clark versus the Wnba, assuming that every veteran player hates the rookie. But Cunningham's reported frustration with the politics proves that there is a faction of players who are sick of the gatekeeping. They see the writing on the wall. They know that Clark is the tide that lifts all boats. By treating the league's biggest asset with such blatant disrespect, offering her a scrub number and an alternate spot, the powers that be are jeopardizing the growth of the entire sport. If the rumors are true and players are quietly protesting or refusing to engage with the national team's promotional narratives because of this, it means the league has lost the locker room. But to truly grasp the gravity of this insult, we have to look at the timeline of the snub. When the roster was announced, the excuses given by the committee were flimsy at best. They talked about experience, seniority, and defensive chemistry. They claimed they needed players who had been through the fires of international competition. Yet, when you look at the stats, when you look at the sheer offensive production Clark brings, those excuses crumble. The decision was personal. It was political. And the jersey number 12 rumor is the smoking gun that proves it. It suggests that they were willing to include her, but only if they could humble her first. They wanted her production without her shine. They wanted to use her name to sell tickets, but force her to sit on the bench wearing a number that signifies irrelevance. It is a classic hazing tactic, the kind of thing you expect in a high school cafeteria, not at the highest level of professional sports. And this is exactly why the backlash has been so severe. The fans aren't stupid. They can see the difference between a basketball decision and an ego decision. The irony here is thick enough to cut with a knife. For years, WNBA players have fought for respect. They have fought for better pay, for chartered flights, for media coverage. They have begged the world to pay attention. And finally, a player arrives who commands the attention of the entire globe. She sells out arenas. She breaks viewership records. She moves merchandise at a rate the league has never seen. And what does the establishment do? They try to bury her. They try to put her in jersey number 12 and hide her at the end of the bench. It is a level of self-sabotage that has sports economists and marketing experts pulling their hair out. The exclusion of Clark from the Olympics is estimated to have cost the league and the networks millions of dollars in potential revenue. And for what? To protect the feelings of a few veterans who are afraid of losing their spot in the limelight? The inclusion of Sophie Cunningham in the resistance against this decision highlights that not everyone is willing to sink the ship just to spite the captain. Let's dig deeper into the old guard mentality that fueled this fire. Diana Taurasi, a legend of the game, has been the face of this resistance. Her comments about reality were seen by many as a warning shot, a declaration that the veterans were not going to make it easy for the rookie, and they haven't. From hard foe. The role of Sophie Cunningham in this saga cannot be overstated. We often view sports through the lens of individual rivalries, but the real story is often about alliances. Cunningham represents the grinder mentality of the WNBA. She isn't a media darling, she fights for every inch of respect she gets. If the reports are true, and she is disgusted by the way Clark was treated, it validates the feelings of millions of fans who feel the same way. It shows that this isn't just crazy fan theories, it shows that inside the league, there is a recognition that things have gone too far. The refusal to play narrative might not mean she is literally sitting out games, but it suggests a spiritual boycott of the hazing culture. It is a refusal to be complicit in the systematic tearing down of a generational talent. It sends a message to the league office. We are watching, and we don't like what we see. We also have to talk about the selection committee itself. Who are these people, and why do they feel so comfortable making decisions that seem to actively harm the growth of the sport? The committee is made up of former players, coaches, and administrators, people deeply embedded in the WNBA's history. They are the gatekeepers. They view the national team as a reward for years of service, a gold watch for a career well spent. They don't view it as a marketing vehicle or a showcase of the current best talent. This disconnect between the basketball purists and the business reality is what caused this train wreck. They thought they could leave Clark off the team, and the world would just nod and say, okay, she needs to wait her turn. They completely misread the room. They didn't realize that for the new wave of fans, Caitlin Clark is the WNBA. Leaving her home is like hosting a concert and telling the headliner to wait in the parking lot. And what about the jersey number itself? Why does number 12 sting so much? In the psychology of sports, numbers are identity. Michael Jordan is 23, Wayne Gretzky is 99, Caitlin Clark is 22. To offer her any other number is an attempt to strip her of her identity. But to specifically offer a number associated with the end of the bench is a specific type of psychological warfare. It says, you are replaceable. It is a microaggression on a macro stage. It's the kind of thing that gives players a chip on their shoulder that lasts a lifetime. If this rumor is true, the committee didn't just make a roster decision, they created a monster. They gave Clark all the motivation she will ever need to destroy every record in the book. And when she eventually does make the Olympic team 4 years from now, you can bet she will be dictating the terms, not them. The fallout has been a PR nightmare for USA Basketball. They have had to field questions about Clark at every turn. The players who did make the team, incredible athletes in their own right, have had their spotlight stolen by the ghost of the player who wasn't there. Every time the team struggled or looked sluggish, the internet exploded with comments like, Caitlin would have made that pass, or Clark would have hit that shot. The shadow of the snub loomed over the entire tournament. By trying to avoid the distraction of Caitlin Clark, they created a distraction 10 times bigger. They wanted to focus on the team, but they made the entire conversation about the one person who wasn't on the team. It was a strategic failure of epic proportions. Then you have the rumors of internal conflict. If players like Sophie Cunningham are indeed pushing back against the establishment, it suggests a fracturing of the WNBA sorority. For a long time, the league was a tight-knit group, us against the world. But now, with money flowing in and attention skyrocketing, cracks are forming. There are the haves and the have-nots. There are the players who benefit from the Clark boom and the players who resent it. The Jersey Wnba 12 incident is likely just the tip of the iceberg. It is a symptom of a much larger disease, envy. It is hard to watch someone come in and get everything you worked 10 years for in 10 minutes. It's human nature. But it is the job of the league to manage those egos, not to indulge them. The league failed. They let the inmates run the asylum, and the result was a public relations disaster. Let's pause and consider the fan perspective. The Caitlin cult, as her detractors call them, are not just casual viewers, they are rabidly loyal. When the news of the Jersey insult leaked, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Fans began canceling subscriptions, returning merchandise, and flooding social media with demands for accountability. They feel protective of Clark because they see her as an underdog despite her dominance. They see a young woman being targeted by a jealous establishment, and they are rallying to her defense. This is why the Sophie Cunningham angle is so interesting. It gives the fans an ally on the inside. It tells them, you aren't crazy, even the players think this is messed up. It validates the anger. It creates a narrative of the people, plots. Sophie. Prun. Caitlin versus the establishment. And that is a powerful story. But we have to ask, was there ever a legitimate basketball reason for the snub? The committee pointed to Clark's turnover rate and her lack of defensive experience. And, sure, those are valid critiques for a rookie. But are they valid enough to leave off the most electric scorer in the world? Are they valid enough to ignore the undeniable chemistry she creates with her passing? Most analysts say no. There were players on that roster who played fewer minutes and had less impact than Clark would have had. The basketball reasons feel like a shield used to hide the personal reasons. The jersey number 12 offer, if true, proves that they considered her talent sufficient to be on the team. They just didn't want her brand on the team. They wanted her as a backup, a quiet participant, not the main event. And when it became clear she was too big to be small, they cut her. The long-term consequences of this are going to be fascinating. How will this affect the next generation of players? Will they see how Clark was treated and think twice about joining the Wnba? Will they see that even if you are the best, you still have to play politics?